for those of you that don't know me, I've been painting furniture for about the last 4 or 5 years. I've been painting my whole life, doing things from anything from painting on canvas to painting my walls and doing faux finishes in my house. So recently we decided to re-side our house, and with that I wanted to update the looks on our doors, which all of our doors are steel, but I wanted the look of a wood door. So I started to research online, and one of the people that actually did a really nice video was Jennifer Allwood of the Magic Brush Incorporated. Her video is on creating a faux finish with doors that already have a wood texture on them. Some steel doors come with that texture. Mine, however, did not. Mine are just plain doors. So I needed to create that wood grain effect in a different way. So I also looked at other videos online, but I did purchase Jennifer's video for her product information and the whole process information. So but the only reason I decided to do this video was because I had a lot of people that asked how I achieved my wood graining. So what I'll go through in the video today is the products that you'll need to complete the job and where you can get them. And then also the steps of the whole process. I'll go through everything with you, actually showing you each step, what I did to achieve the look. And then also the weather conditions that you want to consider before you do this. And then I'll go through cleanup and some safety tips. So if you want to stick with me, my door is finished on the outside. So what I'm going to do is move to the inside, and I'll work from the inside to show you the process that I went through to achieve the look. Okay, I'm here in my house, and what I'd like to do first of all is talk to you about the preparation of the door before you do any painting. It's really important to do that because if you have any grease or grime or dirt on your door, it could prevent the paint from sticking in that place. So what I like to do first is clean the entire surface with 50-50 mix of denatured alcohol and water. And you just put that in a bucket, take a nice clean rag, and make sure you just wipe it down really good. And then it'll evaporate, and then you'll be ready to paint. And then the first product you'll use is, you want to make sure you get a good primer. I went to Sherwin-Williams and asked them what the best primer would be for this project. I explained what I was doing so that they could pick out, you know, what will work. And because I don't want to be doing this again in a couple years, you know, have the paint coming off or anything like that. So they suggested the best primer that they had for this project, and what I asked them to do was to actually tint it to the same color as the base coat that I'm going to be putting on, and which brings me to what you'll be doing next. You can do 1 to 2 coats of the primer depending on how well it covers on the first coat, and then you want to put your base coat on. This is the color that comes through underneath after you put your gel stain on. This color, and then you wipe some of it off. This color is what comes through underneath. So the gel stain that I chose, which would be the next step after you put your base coat on, the next step would be your gel stain, and that's where your wood graining comes into effect. So I chose Old Masters gel stain. It's an interior and exterior gel stain. It's oil based. I chose the espresso color because it has a little bit of a reddish undertone, which I thought went really well with our house color. So then the final product that you would be using is a top coat. You want to make sure you have a really good top coat because your doors are out in the elements. Whether I'm in Wisconsin, so we get really cold weather, we get really hot weather, we get the best of both worlds. So I want to make sure that And this is what's gonna actually protect your paint and your gel stain. So you want to make sure you have a really good product, and Modern Masters makes excellent products, and this is one of them, which is called their Master Clear Supreme. It's a acrylic interior and exterior top coat, and it dries. It's as hard as a rock by the next day. Now you want to make sure, you know, for the first paint takes time to cure. Paint, stain, top coats, they all take time to cure. So like for the first 7 days, you want to kind of be careful with how you use your doors. But when I put this on, by the next day, it was already super hard. I couldn't believe it. So this is a very good product and will protect your finish for years. You'll also want to have some painter's tape. As you can see behind me, I have painted or taped off some of the wood areas so that I'm not painting on those areas or staining on those areas, painting or staining on those areas, because I don't think I want to do that. But I might change my mind by the time I get done with the doors. It might look kind of funky, so I may end up staining those pieces anyway. But so you'll need the painter's tape for that, and if you want to tape off your trim. If you want to paint your trim the same color, which I did on the outside, then you don't need to do that, but you'll need to tape it off from the siding so you don't get any stain or paint on that. Another thing that you want to have is some chip brushes. These are what I'll be using to do the actual wood graining itself. And then for the paints, I like Purdy brushes, and you just buy, you know, the appropriate one for the type of paint that you're using. And so I put those on like that. Then when you do your top coat, you want to get some of these mohair blend or mohair rollers. It works really great for doing these spaces right here. So what I do first is go in on these edges here with the chip brush, and then for the wide areas, then you can use the roller. And you can pick these up. I got these at the Sherwin-Williams store also. And then you want a pair of gloves, just because this gel stain is very messy. When you use the denatured alcohol, I like to put gloves on when I use that. And then I have an X-Acto knife, which I use around these doors. When I put the tape on, as you can see, I get like a 2-inch wide tape, and it'll overlap that wood area. And so then I just go right in alongside that wood with my X-Acto knife, and I can cut off all the excess tape. So those are the products that you're going to be using. And what I'm going to do right now, I've already washed down my door with the denatured alcohol in the water. So I'm going to finish taping, and then I'll be back to start painting. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm back over to my door. And what I want to do first is take my 2-inch brush and cut in on these panels here. I want to just do these edges right here first, and then I'll come back and with my roller to do this flat part. So I've got my paint in a tray, and just like that. And you don't have to worry about if you get outside the lines, as long as you're going in the direction that you should be going. Like, you know, when you have a lengthwise panel, that's the direction you want to paint that in, because that is the way the wood grain would normally run if it was a wood door. This paint is going on really nice and smooth. It's really nice paint. And this is a good brush. got those done. I'm going to get the roller and get that loaded up with my paint. And this is the primer. Again, you can do 1 or 2 coats depending on how well it covers. And this looks like it's actually going to cover pretty good, so I might only, oops, all right. The roller's not sliding very, or it's getting stuck. It's not sliding very well, so I go a little easier on it. So, I think I got that edge over there. My lighting is not the best. Just go get another light. Okay, and you don't want to put it on too thick to where the paint's going to run, because it will run. You don't want any runs on your doors. Now I'm going across here, but later on when I do the gel stain, you'll see I'm going to be going up and down on these edges. And I'll tell you why when we get to that point. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do all of these inside panels and then I will come back. Now what I have gone and started doing was taping off the exterior panels, because what you want to do first is you want to do these horizontal panels. There's 4 of them, one on the bottom, middle, here, and up there. So what I did was I taped evenly with the top of this space and the top of this, and then you tape from the edge of this up to the top of the door, and then because this is one whole panel, now I'm going to tape this edge here and this one here, so we'll do this one, and then the other 2. So my tape here. So again, I line it up with the top edge of those 2 panels. And that should do it for that. And I go along the sides of these 2 panels. So, because what you're going to do is when you paint, the paint will build up enough on the surface that will actually create that line that I was talking about earlier. So it looks like this is one whole piece of wood, and then this would be one whole piece of wood. These insets are all separate. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and finish painting, or I'll actually paint these horizontal pieces. I'm going to try to drag the brush all the way across that piece so that you don't have any starts and stops of your paint, and you get a edge just by doing that. Okay, my little step ladder. I'll get that top piece. Okay, now I'll do the bottom 2 pieces and then I'll come back and show you how to tape off the rest of the door and finish it up. Okay, so I've painted these panels, and now I'm going to tape these panels off to paint the rest of the door and the two side areas. So what I do now is put the tape where I painted before. As you can see, there's actually a little bit of a ridge here on the edges. So once we get the project completely finished, it'll feel like there's a panel there, and it'll look like it. So now I'll just line it up on that line. Hopefully I have that straight. And I'll just do the rest, and then I'll come back and show you before I start painting. Okay, so I have the door taped off now to do the last part. So I'll start painting that. And this paint is going on really nice, so I'm not going to do a second coat of the primer for this inside. If you are doing it on the outside of your door, you might want to do 2 coats. Even if it covers good on the first one, I think I would still do 2 coats, just because it's, you know, the more layers you have, and the more primer, I think, will help for longevity. So basically what you use primer for is the primer sticks to the surfaces or the substrate, whatever you're working on, and then the paint sticks to the primer. So it just really helps with the adhesion. Okay, I've got the entire door and the side panels painted, so now I'm gonna take off the tape. I can get it off. And then what I'll do is I will repeat this process with the actual base coat. So I will be taping it off again once this is completely dry. You want to make sure it's dry so that this paint doesn't peel off with your tape. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then the next step after I get done with the base coat is I'll start on the gel. Okay, we're on to the fun part now. We're going to start doing the wood grain, and what I wanted to talk to you about first is a couple more products. I don't think I mentioned the cheesecloth in the beginning. So what you want this for is when I start to put the wood grain on, you actually wipe some of it back off. Actually what you do is you cover it with a solid coat of the stain, and you can even be kind of sloppy about it. You don't even need to be, it doesn't have to have 100% coverage because you're going to be taking some of it off anyway. So it depends on what kind of look you're going for. You know, there's all kinds of different kinds of wood out there, so if you're trying to emulate a certain type of wood, then I think I would study the patterns of that wood, and then you can come up with maybe your own technique. Now, what I have here is a wood graining tool, and you can use something like this if you'd like. To me, this had, the grains were too fine. I used it on part of the door, but for the most part, I did it with just my brush. And this is another wood graining tool. Excuse me. Another wood graining tool. It's got different edges on it. The teeth are different widths, and you can get different patterns with it. So what I'll do now is I'll start out, and then the 2 brushes that I use are both chip brushes, and they're these cheap, you buy them for about $1 a piece at the hardware store. One is a 2-inch brush, and that's one I'll use to actually put the stain on, and then this one is a 3-inch chip brush that I use to take the stain off in areas. So I'll get started on this one piece right here above me. Those usually don't have a lot of grain on them just because I think they're small pieces, but that I'll probably use the graining tool on. So I'll get started here. And I put my gel stain in a little container. I always put my paint or my gel stain in a container because you can actually, if it sits in the container for a long time and you have dipped your brush in there, as soon as you dip your brush in the paint, you're contaminating it. So you don't want to ever pour your paint or your stain back into your cans. And also when you're working on a project, put it in a different container as you're working with it. So you're not contaminating that paint because it can mold over time. Some paints can, or I guess paint can. And then the gel stain though, one thing you'll notice is that if you've had a can for quite a long time, it will have a hard crust on top, but the stain below that is fine to use. So what I'll start with first is you want to start with the edges here. So put that on, and I'm not, you don't have to be too precise. I'm going over the corners. And when you're doing this, if you'll notice, if you take a look at a 6-panel wood door, the grain on these small panels run up and down. So just doing these edges here to get this piece here goes horizontally, but this piece here is actually the edge of this inner piece. So that is going to go, the grain will go up and down on that. And I'm not going to be real particular, like I said, I'm not going to make sure that that's covered 100%, because when I come back in, and you can do any kind of pattern that you like. I can also use the cheesecloth to take it off, which I think will look better right now. And what I would do is just look at some of the doors that you have in your house, or get on the internet and look at the wood grain doors, and you can see all kinds of pattern there, and then you just basically create it yourself. And then what I'll do is I'll leave that. See, I want to go back in here and make sure that goes across and down here. I'll let that dry, and then when I come back, when I have the whole door finished, if I need to add another coat, if I want it a little darker in some areas, I can do that. Then I go back up in and I kind of clean up these edges a little bit so that when I go in to put the second coat on, it's not like you can see doesn't look heavier in that area. Actually, I was going to use that tool on here. Let me put that, even though I have that done already, I can also still go back in with the tool if I want to. Okay, now that'll give you, see, that brings, you're taking more of the stain off with this because of the rubber piece. So I can leave that the way it is, and I can come back later and add more stain to it because it's a whole lot lighter than this side and I want it to blend. Then what you can do is take the 3-inch brush, and you can kind of soften that up too. what you're doing is you're just dragging some of the gel stain back onto the surface. So, okay, go back across this, like that line there. Go across the grain like that, it just really can soften it up. And then these edges, I usually try to go a little darker with them because when you're creating depth in something, when something recedes, you want it to be darker. That'll give you the illusion of it receding, which would be what these pieces right here do. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone. Okay, I'll go to this panel next. Okay, I'll start on the edges. Just really and work it into those grooves. This edge has a rounded edge on it. I don't know if you can see that. And what that does then is you can rock this back and forth and it'll change the pattern that's on here. And you kind of drag it at the same time, so you'll get some of those elongated parts that have no grain in them. So we do that here. This edge, I kind of like that, so I'm going to leave that the way it is. And then I'm going to take this edge here. Okay, and then again to soften that up so that they're not real hard edges. And you can leave it this way if you want it that way. I mean, that's perfectly fine. It depends on what you like. So first I'm going to take and just go with the grain and get some of that off of there. So there's some definition there. Like you want it to be a little darker in the creases than you do on the parts that are raised, because again, that shows the depth of these panels. Fill that in just a bit. And now my doors, you can go back and forth here too. Again, that'll soften that up. I don't want a real prominent grain on my doors, so this just brings some of that gel stain back in here. And so I can do a couple more panels, and hopefully you can see this okay without my head getting in the way. It's okay to overlap these other panels here too. You're not gonna and be able to see that. Okay, this one I think I'm gonna mostly use the cheesecloth and my finger. Put a knot right here. Go around. What you want to, when you're creating your own patterns like this, the lighter part is actually the thicker part, usually in the doors. So you want to just kind of use your cloth and widen those out a bit and leave the narrow parts to the dark lines. And then sometimes they get a bit more irregular as you go out. As much stain off of this brush as I can. And I'm going to feather that again. Just soften it up. You don't have such definite lines. And then go the opposite direction, and you want to finish with the grain like this. Now I'll let that sit overnight and come back tomorrow, and if I like all the patterns together, which these vertical pieces I don't put a whole lot of grain on, so I'll do those next, and I'll come back and show you the finished wood graining. Here's a look at the finished door with the gel stain all on there, and all of the tape is off the door area. And the only thing that I have left to do is to put the final top coat on, which is Modern Masters Master Clear. This quart, I have done my garage door, I've done the outsides of 4 other doors, including this one with the extra side lights. And I still have some left, so it goes a long way. It's a super hard finish. I would not skimp on any of these products if you're attempting to do this yourself. Okay, so I poured some of my Master Clear in a paint tray, and I'm just trying to get the rest of this out of the edge here so that I can put the lid back on, because if you leave it in there you may not get your lid back on. This stuff gets so hard. And what you wanted to do was let your gel stain dry for, or cure for 72 hours before you start with this clear coat, because the clear coat is an acrylic, and the gel stain is an oil base. And then use a new chip brush. Don't use the ones that you used for your gel stain. And then I'm just gonna dip it in here. It's like a cloudy, almost looks like glue. Then for your wider areas, I use those little rollers I bought. This isn't quite wide enough for those, but so I'll do this with a brush. Also, and I'll just continue until I get all of the trim and the door done. And then I'll remove all the tape. I'll show you my finished product, and then I'll have your list of products that you need and where to get them from at the end of the video. Also, one of my safety tips that I wanted to share with you is at the end of each day, I take any of the rags that I have from anything that's flammable, like the gel stain, and I just go put it in our burning barrel just to get it away from, I don't want it in the house. Those things can start on fire. I don't want it even near the house. So that is a safety tip. And then for cleanup, for this and for the paint, they're both water-based, so they clean up with water. The gel stain, you'll need mineral spirits to clean out your brushes for that. And this goes on really nice, and it starts to dry fairly quickly. You can put your second coat on, like you do this coat in the morning, put your second coat on in the afternoon. I think it's only a couple hours drying time. And once you go over an area, just leave it alone. Try not to go back over it too many times. We've got that a little too thick there, so just go back in with your brush and feather it out. Marks. Okay, now I'm starting to overwork that, so I'll leave it alone. You'll feel the paint or the top coat start to get, like your brush will start dragging through it. It's starting to dry. Okay, I'll come back when I have the door finished. All right, we have a finished product. My steel doors with the wood grain finish is now complete. I will, at the end of this video, include a list of products and where you can get them in order to finish this project. So I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for watching.